We're talking ball with one-time ECU offensive coordinator, college football head coach Doug Martin joining us from the beach here on the Patrick Johnson Show. He's been good enough to join us weekly, and we really appreciate it. Coach, how's it going? Hope all's well.
It's all great, Patrick. Just enjoying life, watching football, and not having to suffer on the sidelines myself.
A lot of suffering this time of year, is there not?
Oh man, yeah, it's nobody's happy right now. It doesn't matter. Nobody's happy.
Yeah. If you're 3-0, you're not happy.
No,
Certainly.
you're
I
not.
mean,
You're not.
let's start with let's start with ECU Appalachian State. Competitive game, interesting game. Pirates raced out like a house of fire, and it kind of had that feel of the old days, the days of yore. A lot of electricity in the building, solid crowd. They announced it at 46. I told somebody, I think I told Brian Meador, I said they could have gone with the old Lee Workman overestimate on the crowd and people would have bought it. I don't know if I'd have said 46. I might have pushed it as close to 50 because, I mean, it was pretty darn well packed in there with the exception of the upper deck by the time the thing got cooking on Saturday night. So when you look at that game, we've talked about it already this week, but I just want to get your take on it, and that is a lot of missed opportunities for ECU, not only in points left on the board, giving App the chance again at a 2-point try in that game, but also just some missed plays, the missed interceptions, some drop passes, just little execution things that didn't go the way of the Pirates. App wasn't pristine, but they did make plays and seemed to be in control.
Yeah, I think that was a good time for East Carolina to get Appy State because they're not as good as what they've been the last couple of years. And yeah, I mentioned you offensively; they've really had a philosophy change, and I don't think it's for the better. They're trying to be more of a four wide out spread offense, and that's not who they are. In the past when they've been really good playing with a fullback and a tight end, and I'm talking about a tight end on the line of scrimmage, not like everybody else is doing with a tight end off the line. They were really good running the ball, playing physical, and throwing play actions, and they just don't do that anymore. I don't know why their change came about, but I don't think that was in the best interest of them. So that was a missed opportunity for East Carolina, and they really needed that game to establish themselves as the premier Group of 5 team in this state again, too. And you're right, the crowd was phenomenal, and that's the advantage that East Carolina has over most Group of 5s is the fan base. Most Group of 5s don't have a fan base like East Carolina does, and just unfortunate they didn't get that win. I think, right now East Carolina is not a very good offensive football team. I mean, they scored one touchdown, and they're just having trouble scoring. And they don't have a lot of diversity to their offense. It's all spread. It's, and that's okay. But, you've got to put all your eggs in that basket. You got to be really good at it because you don't have many other answers. And, it's going to be interesting to see how they develop moving forward.
Well, I was just going to ask you, is that a mechanism of this offense has not got cooking yet? Is it a mechanism of based on that familiarity with the offense that it's sort of baked in and in your DNA? Is it a mechanism of talent level? Are there just are the problems up front so obvious, I guess, that you kind of maybe you're not as able to be as versatile as you want to be?
Yeah, I just think, when you're in that style of offense, and again, there's nothing wrong with that style of offense. A lot of teams win doing that and playing that way, but you've got to be good and you've got to be really good at all areas. And because, like I said, you don't have many answers. Like if you're giving up pressures, if your quarterback's not being protected very well, you don't have the ability to put a tight end on the line of scrimmage and play with him in pass protection and change the formation, those type of things. When you're in the style of offense they're in, it's either going to be a 2-by-2 formation or a 3-by-1. That's it. That's really all you have. So defensively, it's not really hard to game plan against that. And East Carolina's relying on the speed and the tempo to keep defenses off balance instead of, formation changes, shifts, motions, all those type of things that you see a lot of people do across the board in the NFL and college football. But It's just the identity that they have right now. So you guys hope they can get better with it. I don't know if it's personnel or if it's what it is, because I'm not familiar enough with them, watching them practice every day and those type of things. So I wouldn't guess
Yeah,
at that.
yeah.
But it's just right now I can tell you they're struggling offensively. They're gonna struggle to score points. It looks like for a while. So a lot more pressure on their defense, and if they can not turn the ball over, and they can give their defense a chance to win the football game.
Jake Garcia's play. What did you think of it on Saturday?
Yeah, I like him. He's got a lot of arm talent. He can move. I think he could do a lot of things if he develops. That's the key, though. Is he going to develop? And that's coaching. And you got to take a quarterback and make him better and get him better throughout the season. Now, I will say that they played very conservative with him. If you notice, they didn't throw anything over the middle just about the whole day. Everything was designed to throw outside, to keep him from throwing interceptions. I'm sure, and that's okay. But if you're going to play that conservatively, again, you're not going to score a lot of points because you're taking a lot of things off the board that you could do to exploit a defense, and getting the ball in the middle in the receiver's hands over the middle is yards after the catch. And you're not seeing a lot of yards after the catch from East Carolina receivers right now because they don't throw a lot of passes like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they give him a little bit more leeway against Liberty or if they still try to keep him restrained.
Yeah, I just still think, I mean, I just last weekend, based on talking to people, yourself, others, listening to other things, reading things, I had a feel that that thing was going to become a low scoring kind of slugfest, and it was. You're not winning this week. This isn't Old Dominion. You're not winning this week if you've got a game in the teens or low 20s. I think I'm almost with you. I get the turnover concern, but I think you got to put the proverbial pedal to the metal a little bit here in order to be able to score enough points to win on the road. I mean, you got to be in the upper 20s if you're going to beat a team like Liberty on the road.
Well, if you're going to win consistently in college football right now, you've got to score points. All the rules are made for offenses to succeed right now. You can have linemen halfway downfield when you're throwing RPOs and passes, and pass interference has become a big. I mean, everything is set for the offense to succeed. So you got now East Carolina has a great defense, and they can win some games playing like
Sure,
that if they want to play very
sure.
conservative and do that. But you're putting a lot of pressure on your defense, and their defense scored one of their touchdowns last week. So, I don't like playing that way. I think you've got to be aggressive on offense and have confidence in your offensive kids to go out and score points. But I just, again, I think they're limited in the answers that they have as an offensive scheme. Just for instance, back in the day when I was in East Carolina, we played Syracuse, and they had Dwight Freeney was one of their defensive linemen. Well, that was a total mismatch for our offensive tackle to be blocking Dwight Freeney. So every drop back pass we threw that day, we had a tight end lined up in front of Dwight Freeney before he went out. It was run through Freeney, then run your route. Well, that helped us. That was just a
Yeah.
way that we could change a formation or use a different variety of pass protection to help. They don't really have the ability to do things like that with this scheme. Nobody does when you're in this type of scheme. And I've run this type of scheme myself offensively. When we were at New Mexico State in 2017, we were straight air raid, and it was all four wideouts, and we were a good offensive football team and won a bowl game. But I don't think we could have won a championship playing like that. We didn't have enough diversity.
Yeah. We're talking to ECU offensive coordinator for a decade, was a coach with the Pirates, college football head coach, UFL offensive coordinator Doug Martin joining us from down along the Crystal Coast. Caden Salter is the quarterback for Liberty. They run a triple option, but he can throw out of that rather effectively. You've watched him on film. You've watched his clips. What impresses you about Caden Salter, the uh, Texas High School Player of the Year in 2020? I mean, that right there tells you this guy's accolades.
Yeah, you would love to coach this guy. He is electric. He's got a great presence about him. He doesn't panic. You can't speed him up and make him make bad decisions. I don't think he's thrown an interception yet this season. Really throws a nice ball. And they do. They run the triple option also. So, that really comes into play, especially if you're going to try to blitz them. Every blitz, you got to make sure somebody has the dive quarterback pitch, because you never know when that option is coming. I don't think Liberty is as good a football team as what they've been in the last couple of years, and their weakness is up front, the offensive line. They're not near as good as what I've seen them be here lately. But the quarterback is electric, and he is a problem. And he's kind of like in the old days we had to play Michael Vick, or back when I was coaching Julian Edelman. Teams that gave Julian problems were teams that didn't rush him. They stayed in front of him, made him stay in the pocket. If he was able to step through the pocket or get outside, boy, he could light you up. And I think that's what you got to do with Caden Salter. You got to keep him in the pocket. Do not rush past him and make him throw from back there. Now, they do a lot of play actions and things like that to move him also. But he is a really good football player. People are going to enjoy watching him.
Quentin Cooley went to Southern Nash, the running back, started his career at Wake Forest before transferring to Liberty too. Status there is a little unknown, but what else do they have on offense outside of their QB?
Yeah, I mean, they've got good speed at wide receiver, and they'll take some shots. They have a lot of things off play action where they get some deep balls thrown, throw a lot of screens. So you've got to be aware of that. They're not really much of a tempo team. They'll huddle part of the time. Also, they do have some no huddle to them that they've used in the past too, but they mix things up pretty well. They're really well coached on offense. And I think Jamie Chatwell does a great job. He has last couple of years. I think they just got a lot of newer players up front in the offensive line that they're kind of breaking in, so they're not quite as good up there. And it looks like some communication problems that they're having right now up there. But everywhere else, they've still got players. The quarterback, the skilled guys are really good. Defensively, they're a good football team. They're going to pressure you a lot. They love to pressure on defense, and if they have success with it, you're going to see a lot of it.
All right, more with Doug Martin here in just a minute. A timeout on the Patrick Johnson Show, and we'll come back and talk about some games this week with Coach Doug Martin here on the PJ Show. Coach Doug Martin with us here, Patrick Johnson Show, Pirates and Flames, ECU and Liberty meeting for the first time ever. We talked about this a little bit on the Radio Coaches Show with Mike Houston on Monday night, Doug, and that is you look at the emergence in this state of App State going from FCS to FBS, Charlotte creating a program. You've always had East Carolina if you're one of the big four. So now you've got 7 FBS playing schools in this state. You've also got, Coastal's come along. Georgia Southern's come along here in the last, decade or what have you. But I look at the state of Virginia. It's a far different landscape than it was a decade or so ago. You always had Virginia Tech and then Virginia being the state school there, quite obviously. But now you've got JMU, which had emerged and became a championship-level FCS program. They've got a lot of interest now. They're in a great area for recruiting of the proximity to D.C., and they're now a well-supported team. They'll play at North Carolina this week, but you've got ODU, which started things up, and they're obviously, you look at where they are, hot recruiting bed, and then Liberty's got more money than they know what to do with. You're going to be hard pressed to outspin Liberty at the G5 level. There's even some P4s that probably can't outspin Liberty if we get right down to it. So the landscape of this whole thing in this mid-Atlantic region has really changed dramatically, has it not, in the last 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, it really has. And what you're talking about, Patrick, is, recruiting pools. Used to that Tidewater area, which is great football. But we could go up there as East Carolina back when I was at East Carolina. We could go up there and, whoever Virginia Tech didn't take, there was a lot of great players left over that we got out of there that were phenomenal players. But now you're right. It's JMU, it's ODU. There's a lot of other schools in there recruiting. Same thing, with the state of North Carolina. We made a living taking North Carolina kids. I think we probably 3/4 of our team was from North Carolina, as I remember most of the time. But we didn't have to. We could always beat Appy State in recruiting because they're an FCS team. Charlotte didn't have a team, and so it has changed a lot, and it just makes it even more important as a recruiter that you're a great evaluator. You find talent and you develop it, and winning those games against those teams is important because kids want to go where they're going to win. So that's why that game last week against Appy was really important because it's a recruiting war game too. It attracts you more players than what you get otherwise.
We're talking to Doug Martin here. Some games of interest this week. Well, one thing from last week, Georgia, Kentucky. Saw the end of that. It was a very low-scoring game. Kentucky opted to punt around midfield with 3 minutes to go in that instead of going for it. And I mean, they did get the ball back maybe with not as much time as they had hoped, but they did get it back kind of late in that game before we're really unable to do anything. But with that said, Georgia has been susceptible at times to kind of get stuck in the mud offensively. So Texas now the new number one. So the first part of this is, I still think Georgia is very well the best team. I would still put them as the favorite as we sit here right now to win the whole thing. With that said, is Texas back?
Oh, I think Texas is back. Yeah, Texas is a really talented team. They're really well coached. They've got things rolling well, and they've got two really good quarterbacks. Now clearly Evers is Ewers is their starter, and he's a great one.
Yeah.
But Manning coming behind him is going to be another one that they're developing. So they're not going to have fall off after the other one leaves. Which is great on their part. So yeah, I think so. I'm agree with you though. I think Georgia is still overall the best team. I was really proud of my alma mater, Kentucky. They played about as well as they could possibly play. Mark Stoops is a friend of mine and has done a tremendous job there. I've done some consulting with Mark offensively in the past and tried to help them with some things. And they're just struggling on offense right now. They can't score enough to win. And
Right.
they're relying totally on their defense right now. And it's a shame because I'll tell you what they did, though, that other teams have not been able to do to Georgia. They lined up and played man coverage, and they pressured Georgia a lot. And that's the way Mark likes to play, and he likes to bring things like that. He's a defensive guy. But that's the first time I've seen somebody actually be able to do that consistently through a game and cover those Georgia receivers. So I thought Kentucky really maybe exposed some things about Georgia that somebody can pick up later on down the line.
Let's talk some games this week. App State, we just talked about. They'll be at home tomorrow night against South Alabama. So coming off a win opportunity to get to 3-1. Again, I got a pretty good look, obviously. I thought they did a really nice job of keeping the pocket clean for Aguilar. And he proved he can pick you apart. I think he exposed a few things in the ECU secondary, but is that poised to maybe go on a little bit of a run here starting tomorrow night on a short week? I know it's a different world, but it's brutal in my mind going from that Saturday to Thursday turnaround.
It can be. You're depending on who you're playing after the Thursday game going back, or the Saturday game going to the Thursday game. Depends on who you're playing and how much difference there is. South Alabama will be a good test for them. They're a really good football team. They always have good players and talent in that Alabama area. So that'll be an interesting game. I want to see if Appy can really play physical up front in the offensive line. I don't see them doing that right now, and I think that's going to end up biting them as the year goes on. I'm not sure they're really poised to make that run that they've been making in the past. I think they're still a pretty good defensive football team, but I got some questions about them offensively, just their identity. I do think the quarterback they have is a good player. I think he's got a great arm, can move a little bit. I think he's very similar to Garcia. Those two, you'd love to have either one of those guys. I think you could take either one of those guys and develop them into really good quality quarterbacks. So it's going to be interesting to see how both those guys keep moving forward as the year goes on.
One of the big games nationally, a couple of national games I wanted to talk about. One of the big games nationally in the SEC, it is Oklahoma's entree into things in the Southeastern Conference. They will host Tennessee. Josh Heupel played quarterback at Oklahoma, obviously. Infamously was booted from Stoops' staff. He's done all right for himself. And then you've got, obviously, Oklahoma, and it seems like Venables is currently on a hot seat, perpetual hot seat right now. So how do you see that one playing out?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. Brent Venables, really good defensive football coach. Obviously, Josh Heupel being an Oklahoma guy and coming back there as a head coach, and what he's done in Tennessee is remarkable. I mean, he is really, not only from an offensive standpoint, but just from an overall program, what he's built there, because it was really in bad shape when he took over. I think he's one of the most underrated coaches there is. So I think that's going to be an interesting game to watch. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch Oklahoma, even after this game, being with an SEC schedule and having to play, week after week, you've got to play somebody that's got a chance to beat you. It's not like in the past where their schedule had some lightweights in it. So it's going to be interesting to see how all those teams moving into the SEC handle that the schedule, the strength of schedule.
At home, they've already made a change at quarterback. They've got USC, and this isn't your typical Lincoln Riley USC. It seems. I mean, to me, seems like they're doing a few more things defensively than what Lincoln Riley teams have done traditionally.
Yeah, they're always going to score points when Lincoln Riley's running the offense. I mean, he's just always done that. And, one of the things I've always appreciated about him is he has a lot of diversity to his offense. And that he can score and move the ball and do things in a lot of different ways. And he's evolved, over the years. You'll see him go into different things. They're big into the counter gap series now and play action passes and things like that he didn't used to do very much of. So he's always evolving offensively. Defensive has been the problem at USC for a long time now, but they do look like they're playing more physical, playing faster, maybe have a little bit better talent. So that'd be interesting. I think Michigan has some real problems right now. They're having a problem with the quarterback. Obviously, they benched one, going to another one. When you do that, you're reaching. When you have to do that at this point in the season, you obviously got problems, and that's what you and I've been talking about this whole season, Patrick. Is who has a quarterback coach? Who has a guy that's going to develop a quarterback, and to where you can see week after week as the season goes on, this quarterback's getting better and better and better, and we're being able to give him more and more and put on his plate. And I think that's the sign of a good coach and a good program when you see that progress. And obviously, Michigan doesn't have that right now.
I love my NC State fans who get all chippy with me when I talk about the pack on the grid, or just talk about the pack anyway. And look, they made a change for McCall because they had to because of his injury, and they end up rallying to beat Louisiana Tech. Good on them. They were at home, and that was a good thing. Now they go to number 21 Clemson. No McCall because of the injury. C.J. Bailey is a true freshman. And look, whether Dabo gets in the portal or not, Clemson's as good as they are. You're still going into Death Valley as a true freshman. Not easy.
Not easy at all. But, I actually played my first college game I played in was at Clemson. Yeah.
Right.
Tough day. They had the refrigerator. William Perry was in the defensive line that day. So that was not a good day. But yeah, that's a tough place to play, and they're a good football team. Clemson, they're rebounding a little bit, getting a little momentum. So I think NC State is interesting to watch right now. I told you before the season even started, I was never sold on McCall. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. I don't think he's an upper echelon ACC quarterback, and that's kind of been proven out. I think the young man they got playing now has a lot of talent. This might be one of the best things that happened to NC State is to start playing him because he's athletic. He has a nice arm. And again, it's going to be a matter of him developing and making progress as the season goes on. But this might be an advantage for NC State to have been forced into making this quarterback change and going with somebody else because I think this guy gives them a lot more advantages.
The 2-0 Dukes of James Madison at UNC. Couple things with the Tar Heels. Jacoby Criswell more productive than Connor Harrell against Central, and then I've seen Omari and Hampton play since he was a sophomore in high school, and he was just one of those. You could tell a guy that's going to be all world in high school because they're just like they're not head and shoulders. They're like 3 stories ahead of everybody. Cornell Powell was like that at Rose. So, I mean, those are always the fun guys to watch when it's, the guy playing the 3D chess against the checkers players sometimes. And we see that a lot. But anyway, I think North Carolina's still has major quarterbacking issues. All I know is James Madison's 2-0. They're not coming in just to collect a paycheck. They're coming in to get the check and get out of there with the win.
Yeah, I would just tell Tar Heels, you better be careful. JMU, they've got history, they've got tradition. They're not intimidated by these situations and going and playing in these venues. They're going to expect to win the football game. Now, can they do it? I haven't really seen a lot of JMU yet. I've seen some of them. So we'll see talent wise if they can hang on. But UNC is very vulnerable, really on both sides of the ball. I mean, defensively, they're giving up a lot of big plays, big chunk plays, and offensively, they're just they don't have an identity right now. And they've had quarterback issues, but just the whole identity of the offensive scheme right now, it seems kind of scattered. It seems like they're really just kind of calling plays right now instead of really working to have a philosophy and an identity about what they want their offense to be. So, be an interesting game. I would be careful if you're a Tar Heel.
All right. Thankfully, I'm not. We've got Doug Martin with us here. I was trying to crack Coach there, and I did a little bit. All right, Coach. One other thing to talk about. We discussed the Pac-12 situation. Had that happened when we talked to you last week? Did we discuss that? Did we get into that with you? Yeah,
I
I
don't
did.
think we talked about that. Did we? I don't think we talked about Pac-12 very
No,
much.
I think it was
Expansion.
Thursday. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was Thursday when all this kind of came to. All right, so just a word on that before I pivot and ask you another question about expansion.
I think it's a natural seeing them go to the Mountain West to try to get the best of the Mountain West to come back to reload the Pac-12 or whatever pack they're going to be. But yeah, I think that's a good move by them. There's a lot of Mountain West teams that won't be good enough to make that trip, like New Mexico and some of those they won't want. But Colorado State has phenomenal facilities, and San Diego State, a lot of those. There's a lot of really good football. Fresno, tremendous football tradition. So that's a good way for them. That's a good move for the Pac to move to reload and have a conference again.
I think there's a really good shot Memphis winds up in that group. Couple reasons. Memphis is putting more of an emphasis on football than basketball, and their AD is, and they're itching to get out of the American. Now I don't know if that's a better landing spot for them. Maybe it is. Maybe it didn't. If they want to travel all over the country and pay $30 million to exit the American to do it, God bless them. Tulane wants to leave too. I'm not a big Tulane fan. I think they're a little haughty-taughty here in recent times. And again, if you want to fly all over the country to play sports, God bless you. So that looks like that's the direction that may be going. Now there's word that Air Force.
I think that's a mistake. I think that's a mistake for both those teams, Patrick. I'm with you because of the travel. It's not just football; it's every sport has to make that travel. Yeah. You're talking about a lot of expenses, and I'm not sure the Pac-12 or Pac whatever it is going to give them the visibility that they really think they're going to get.
Well, or the money. Are they going? Is that group going to command a TV dollar that is significantly higher than what you're getting in the American now? No.
Yep.
And here's the other thing. The Air Force going to the American. I think you were being the trendsetter you are, Doug. You were talking about this a year ago that, what a coup to be able to get all of the military institutions under one conference banner. And the American seems determined to do that. And I think it's a great move.
I think it would be phenomenal for the American Conference to get all three service academies. If they get an Army, Navy, Air Force, I mean, look, all three of those teams consistently have been pretty good over the last 10, 15 years. And there's been some down times, all that, but consistently, all three have been really good. They've all three got money, facilities. They just tremendous draw. I mean, when you go play those guys, it's always in front of a good crowd, right? I mean, wherever you go, when they come to North Carolina, there's a lot of military down here that wants to see one of the service academies play. So I think they're a natural for the American, and I think it'd be good for the service academies. I think they fit well, and I think it'd be great for the conference. And you're getting quality people, you get quality young men.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you get a little bit of talk of UNLV coming too. Some people question why wouldn't they have gone to the Pac whatever, but yeah. So interesting that has been bandied about. It doesn't seem to have quite the legs that the Air Force thing has, but I mean that would, if you're UNLV, that's probably not a horrible move just for your own survival, right?
Yeah, I don't know how familiar people here are with UNLV and what they've done over the last 5 years, but you talk about some facility improvement. I mean, they have broken the bank out there, paying for everything from coaches to stadium to brand new football complex, practice facilities, weight room. Everything has been totally redone at UNLV, and it's been done the right way. So, yeah, I would think them in the Pac-12 or whatever would be a much smarter fit, I think, geographically at least. But I don't know if they would really fit in the American. But who knows if the Americans want to expand that far geographically? I don't know if that's a fit or not.
I think whoever gets them. I mean, Vegas is a coveted market. I mean, that's a growing city,
Yeah,
obviously, and
yeah,
it's beginning to
It's a
really
good
like.
get for any.
Oh yeah, I agree with you, Doug. Great to talk to you. Always a lot of fun. Appreciate it, Coach Martin, very much, and enjoy the football weekend.
All right, buddy. You guys have a good one.
Patrick Johnson Show, 94.3 The Game, the IBX Media app, 94.3thegame.com. Thank you for being with us here today. Happy birthday to Brian Mull, longtime golf writer, college basketball scribe, and he joins us here on the Patrick Johnson Show today. Not so much to talk about his birthday, although we can. We've got some golf in our sights here for this weekend, and some little bit of some ripples from this Live PGA thing. But first, we bring in Brian Mull. Happy birthday to you, my friend. Hope it has been a good one. What? No better way to cap it than being on. No better way.
Oh, it's definitely the highlight of the day so far. It is. I appreciate the well wishes. When you get to this point in life, they're not quite as exciting as they once were. All the landmark ones are gone. I'm just trying to keep having another one. And beautiful day down here at the coast, and looking forward to spend some time with my girls.
So I do want to ask you a little bit about the President's Cup, which comes up this week. But I think we're all more fascinated and intrigued about the latest twists and turns to what's going on with the PGA Tour and with Live Golf. You have Rory McIlroy out there speaking out earlier this morning. You got Brooks Koepka making some statements in the last couple of days. What is the latest in this? It seems like that there's argument over pay right now. What is all this about, Brian? Why is there? I mean, and I don't want to oversimplify this. The Live guys took a boatload of money, but they were taking the risk by going to this league that, probably financially wasn't going to fold, but obviously there was no guarantee it was going to be around forever. And they also knew that, there would be penalty from the tour itself. That was made pretty clear early on. So what is it that the PGA guys want? Them to share some of the money with them? I mean, what is this all about as far as the pay goes?
Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. There's some jealousy, or some guys who seem to be holding firm to a stance that, well, these guys left our tour, and they have a point in that they damaged the tour that they belong to, and in the greater sense, damaged the game of golf. They left, they got the money bag. Now they want to come back and play together and play in some of our tournaments. And, from their perspective, that's unfair. Now, in the meantime, the players who have remained have become equity members of the PGA Tour, which has received a tremendous investment, a couple billion from the Strategic Sports Group. And we've seen what's happened with the with the purses in the last year and a half as a response to the Live money. So nobody's broke in this situation. Nobody's struggling
right.
to pay their expenses. I mean, Scotty Scheffler's caddy just made more money than the leading money winner on tour made 10 or 15 years ago. The leading money winning golfer. And so everybody's doing okay. But there's some resentments there, but and there's been many words said, and a lot of those things have not been forgotten. There's some division, and a few people speaking out. Rory has kind of waffled back and forth, and it just does. It seems like the two sides are so far apart, and when you, it's just hard to get over Live being anything more than an exhibition tour. I mean, I watched it last weekend. It was one of the events in the States that you could watch at a reasonable time of day, and I've watched quite a bit of it this year. And it just, there was some intrigue because you had the top two players for the whole season, Rom and Neiman, who were battling down the stretch. And I will say that their individual championship makes much more sense than the FedEx Cup on the PGA Tour side. But it's still it lacks a lot of the ingredients of championship golf. The shotgun start, the music, and just the 54 hole format are just three huge negatives. And the viewership. I mean, nobody is watching it. Nobody cares. They've all got a lot of money. Good for them, but like, Live has not gained any type of foothold in the golf market.
With that said, the PGA ratings this year went down as a result. So I don't know if this is because Live is damaged, as you said, the game itself, or, I mean, let's face it, there are some guys who have more household appeal on the Live Tour that are, names that people recognize than maybe some of the guys right now on the PGA Tour. Or maybe it was just Scheffler was so dominant it was boring. I don't know. But I totally hear what you're saying. I mean, the music's obnoxious. I don't mind the shotgun start only because we get to see golf shots. Of course, when you don't have commercial inventory that you have to fill, you can show a lot of golf shots like the CW is doing or like Live does in their broadcasts. There's a lot of really positive things that I think NBC and CBS, but NBC especially, could learn from coverage and pick some, cherry pick some of the ideas out of what Live does that would make their presentation more appealing. CBS, it's just, I mean, get rid of some voices on there. But anyway, that is neither here nor there. I don't want to belabor the point there, but I don't know. It just seems like nobody's having a benefit held for him anytime soon. And the only people that seem to be suffering is maybe the game as long term as a whole, but also guys like you and me and other people that would like to watch the game and enjoy watching it. It seems like we, the fans, are really getting penalized here one way or the other.
I agree 100%, and I also agree with your take on the broadcast. Their broadcast is much more enjoyable to watch because it's constant action, a lot less just meaningless chatter. The interruptions during some of the big events from NBC, they have so many of the big events now, both of the Opens and the Ryder Cup and the Olympics, and just the coverage of all of those events was abysmal. The golf fans have suffered, and I think a lot of people have tuned out. The ratings are what they are. They're going to continue on that path. Folks who felt like they could follow the tour from week to week have basically lost interest. I think a lot of people just are taking that time to play golf themselves or do other things, and maybe they come back around for the majors. I just don't see a clear path forward. I think the two sides are too far apart in what they're trying to accomplish. I think that the PIF and the the Public Investment Fund people of Saudi Arabia, they really want to have a seat at the table, and I don't think the tour feels like they have to give them as much of a voice as they want. They don't need their money now with the investment from the Strategic Sports Group, and it just seems like they're two ships that are floating apart from one another and not really coming together despite these meetings. I thought it was very telling that Tiger Woods opted not to attend the most recent meeting that was held in New York City. And he was someone who seemed to be all in, even using his involvement in that as an excuse or reason for not wanting to captain the Ryder Cup team next year. And so I think we can take a lot from the fact that he's maybe losing interest and sees that these talks are going nowhere. And frankly, the tour players shouldn't really probably be making the decisions, even though they do own the tour, so to speak. Are they qualified to make these big business decisions? I feel like a lot of these conversations go sailing over their head. It's a mess. I don't know what the solution is. Meanwhile, the Masters keeps making one right decision after another, expanding their television coverage, expanding their Paramount Plus package for next year, showing more golf, fewer commercials, keeping the commercials limited as they have been there forever. Uh, they've been adamant about the number of minutes per hour that the advertising will interrupt their broadcast, and they're going to continue that. And no one else seems to be able to get it. There's just a real disconnect, and it's unfortunate for those of us who like to watch golf because, I mean, if you looked at God bless the leaderboard on the PGA Tour last week, but it was by far the fourth most interesting event played last weekend behind the Irish Open, the Live event, and the Solheim Cup. And
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't pick those guys out of the lineup who were on the leaderboard. And that's just shows you how far the tour has fallen in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We're talking to Brian Mull, the birthday boy, golf writer at BG Mull on X. Also, you can follow his college basketball exploits. The Blue Ribbon is getting ready to come out, so Brian will be involved heavily and featured prominently in that and Lindy's preseason as well. All right, Brian, let's talk about the President's Cup, the ugly stepbrother of the Ryder Cup. Now this is a little more interesting because it's going to be vied for on Canadian soil, and Canadian sports fans really like golf a lot, and I think they will be fired up for this. So does this give it a little more intrigue that it is on North American soil? And again, we're at times where you can maybe watch it a little more conveniently than you could if it were being vied and played overseas per se.
Yeah, there is no question the Canadians love golf. They have a short season, but they sure squeeze every minute they can out of it. And when you look at the growth of Canadian golf in the last decade or so, they have a tremendous national program, something the United States is finally adopting after other countries around the world doing it for decades now. And terrific leadership in that program. They have more players on the PGA Tour than they've ever had. They have more winners. And, Mike Weir certainly winning the Masters was a big step forward in that direction 20 years ago. But they built off of that and have a nice, good core group. They don't really have any superstars per se, but they have some, half dozen really solid tour players. And it feels like they're always kind of coming out of the pipeline. It'll be passionate. It'll be interesting to see these guys that play on the PGA Tour every week, who will be competing for the international team and will certainly have the crowd behind them in an event that the Americans have dominated, losing only once since the inception of the event in the mid-90s. Obviously, the international team will be missing some key players, some of the Australians who are on the Live Tour and the South Africans. That's unfortunate. Again, it would be great if Bryson DeChambeau was on the American team. It'd be great if Cam Smith and Joaquin Niemann were on the international team. It would make for a better competition, but this is where we're at in this divided game right now. The President's Cup, it's been entertaining at times. It is kind of the redheaded stepchild, if you will, looked down upon. It will never have the history and legacy of the Ryder Cup, but it has provided some entertaining moments. And on the American side, it has been an opportunity for some guys to get a taste of that team competition and feel that pressure of representing your country and playing match play against other great players and kind of being a springboard. Along those lines, I was disappointed in a couple of the picks that Jim Furyk made. Very vanilla, which could be expected from Furyk. And just going down the points list there with his captain's picks, I felt like he could have given an opportunity to some of the young stars, Nick Dunlap, who won twice on the PGA Tour as a rookie, winning as an amateur in his first win back in January, and then Akshay Bhatia, the North Carolinian, who had a phenomenal season, top 15 on the PGA Tour, a win, close to another win, and is a guy that, by all accounts, is going to be a mainstay on these teams going forward. It would have been a great opportunity to put either or both of them on the team and get them some experience, because there's a very good chance they could be making their debut at Bethpage next year.
Furyk, just to respectfully disagree with you, he thinks the flavor of vanilla is a tad spicy. So if there's anything more bland than vanilla, it's probably what the best way to describe Furyk. The great Brian Mull joining us here. All right, if you were to be placing some wagers on the event, how does your favorite betting app out there in betting land line it up? I guess head to head, or you could take the U.S. or the international. How does all that kind of line up on something like this weekend? And then, do you have any picks for the boys and girls out there?
I don't really have any concrete picks at this point. It's an event. These team events, I really like to look at the individual matches. I feel like that's where the
Yes,
best
right.
value is. Maybe go light early and kind of observe a little bit the first day. You can kind of see who has it or doesn't. It's typically in these events with the pressure, if you're playing well coming in and you start out playing well early in the event, it's going to continue through the weekend. And conversely, if you don't have good form, you're probably not going to find it. It's not going to be able to press a button and just start playing well. So I think as you go forward in this event, kind of watch the first day, see a guy like Sam Burns who's played really well. Is a very good match player, makes a lot of birdie. He would be someone I would want to bet on in his matches if he's showing any kind of form at all early. And conversely, Max Homa, who was a very questionable pick, I think more on the merit of his performance at the President's Cup and Ryder Cup, the last two times those events were held, but has just been struggling. Missed the cut last week at a golf course where he's won twice. Would be someone I would fade. And the international teams will probably be underdogs plus money in a lot of the matches. So there's some opportunity there. They're not going to get shut out. It will probably be fairly competitive through the team aspect of it. I would think it would be somewhat close going to the last day. So I would look for some opportunities there. Anytime you can get a plus money, 140, 150, maybe even up to 200, it's not worth. I mean, it's not a bad idea to sprinkle a few pennies.
We've got the great Brian Mull with us. Thank you for the time. A very happy birthday to you. And thank you for the very latest going on in the world of golf, including this weekend's President's Cup.
Thank you, Patrick. Everybody enjoy the rest of the week.